The day we were supposed to register our marriage, my boyfriend, Leo Vance, had security escort me out of the Civil Affairs Bureau. Moments later, he walked back inside holding hands with his childhood sweetheart, Chloe Reed. He had looked at me with an expression of complete indifference, as if the 7 years we had spent together meant nothing at all. Chloe needs to register her child's household, he had said, his voice flat. I'll marry you after we get divorced in a month. Everyone around us, all the friends who knew our story, seemed to believe that I, the ever-devoted fool, would simply accept this and wait patiently. I had waited for him for 7 years, so what was another month? But that was the day something inside me finally broke. That very night, I gave in to my family's long-standing pressure and agreed to go abroad for an arranged marriage. I disappeared from his life without a word. 3 years passed. Now, I was returning to my homeland to accompany my husband, Julian, as he paid respects to his ancestors. An urgent business matter had called him away at the last minute, so he arranged for someone from his company's domestic branch to pick me up from the airport. By a cruel twist of fate, as I stepped into the arrivals hall, the first person I saw was Leo, a man I had not laid eyes on in 3 years. He stood there with Chloe and a few of our old friends, all of them craning their necks, searching the crowd. I saw one of them holding a sign bearing my English name, Helena. As I walked closer, one of his friends spotted me. Vance, isn't that your lovesick puppy, Clara Hayes? Leo's eyes widened in surprise when he saw me, but he quickly masked it with a veneer of casual indifference. What did I tell you? I knew she'd come crawling back eventually. A ripple of laughter went through their group, and they all turned to look at me with mocking amusement. Clara just vanished back then? Another friend chimed in. Seeing how well Leo's doing now, she must be crying herself to sleep every night, drowning in regret. Chloe looked me up and down with a disdainful smirk. Clara, if you were trying to stage a chance encounter, you could have at least put in some effort. Couldn't even be bothered to dress up? I guess without Leo funding your life, you can't even afford decent clothes anymore. You've really hit rock bottom, haven't you? It was true that in the past, whenever I was going to see Leo, I would spend hours on my appearance. I'd apply the most exquisite makeup and choose the most figure-flattering outfits, all in an effort to present the best version of myself to him. But that was no longer necessary. Now, because of my pregnancy, my husband insisted I prioritize comfort over everything else and forbade me from wearing makeup. The simple, casual outfit I wore was custom made for me by a designer Julian had hired specifically for my maternity wardrobe. From their conversation, however, I understood that they only knew my English name and had no idea that I was the important guest they had been sent to pick up. Seeing my silence, a friend who had once been relatively close to me tried to play the peacemaker. Clara, it's good that you're back. To be honest, Leo has been looking for you all these years, asking everyone if they'd heard from you. Leo's smile was stiff and awkward. He cleared his throat, pretending as if nothing had happened. Chloe's son is about to start kindergarten soon. From now on, you'll be responsible for picking him up and dropping him off. He still possessed that same self-righteous arrogance, but I was no longer the young woman who would tolerate his every whim. Seeing him again, the only emotion I felt was a profound sense of annoyance. I had no desire to waste my time engaging with them. I was about to clarify my identity when Chloe spoke again, her voice dripping with condescension. Clara, don't blame Leo. He's only offering you this job to look out for you. After disappearing for 3 years, who knows what kind of mess you've made of your life? Even if he wanted to give you my old job as his personal secretary, you wouldn't be qualified to handle it. Don't worry, though. If you help me take care of my son, no one will look down on you. After 3 years, Chloe was just as arrogant as I remembered, still possessing that unique ability to make my skin crawl with disgust. Leo seemed to mistake my silence for jealousy and anger on his behalf. A flicker of smugness crossed his face. Enough. You couldn't make it on your own out there, and now you're acting all picky. Just take good care of the child and stop making a scene. Know your place. Don't worry, he added. We still have the nanny's room at my place. His words were met with a fresh wave of malicious laughter from the group. See, Clara, Leo is so good to you. He's worried you'll suffer, so he's arranged for your food and lodging. Helping Chloe take care of her child is a much better life than whatever you have now, isn't it? Hurry up and thank him. Chloe touched a diamond earring, her expression pretentious. Don't worry, Clara. If my son is naughty, I'll be the one to discipline him. You won't be mistreated. Leo let out a mocking laugh and glanced at me. What does she have to complain about? She disappeared over such a trivial matter back then. Now that she can't survive on her own and has come crawling back, she deserves a little hardship. Hearing him call our breakup a trivial matter made my heart clench. It was a stark reminder that the Leo I once loved was long gone. He was no longer the boy who, despite being covered in his own wounds, had carried me across half the city when I was injured. He was not the young man who, with nothing to his name, had loudly declared his love and promised me the world. And he was certainly not the successful man who, despite his achievements, was once willing to cook simple meals for me in our small apartment. But it didn't matter anymore. That was all in the past. I was about to have my second child, and my life was full. I suppressed the old memories, refusing to argue with them. It was pointless. I looked directly at Leo and said calmly, "Aren't you all here to pick someone up? Let's go." The scene fell silent for a beat as the group exchanged confused glances before erupting into another round of laughter. Chloe scoffed. "Waiting for you? As if you're worthy." She pointed at the sign in her friend's hand. "Look carefully. We're waiting for Helena. Do you even know who she is?" Before I could answer, she continued, her voice filled with reverence. "Helena is the lady of the Croft household, the wife of Mr. Julian Croft himself." One of the friends added excitedly, "Mr. Croft is a powerhouse in the business world, but they say he's a true romantic. He stayed unmarried for years, just waiting for Helena. Everyone in our circle knows that trying to get on Mr. Croft's good side is nothing compared to winning over Mrs. Croft. She is the apple of his eye." As they went on, a small, blissful smile touched my lips. In our 3 years of marriage, Julian's business had grown exponentially, and his reputation as a doting husband had become legendary. Chloe, who had always felt a need to outshine me, seized the opportunity to show off. Mr. Croft once bought an eternal love bracelet at a Christie's auction for $20 million just to make his wife happy. Mrs. Croft is the envy of every woman in the world. She paused for dramatic effect, then pointed a sharp finger at my wrist and shrieked, "That one! It's that exact one!" The chatter died instantly. Every eye in their group was fixed on the bracelet I wore. Leo abruptly grabbed my hand, his grip tight. He glanced at it, then sneered. "Quite a meticulous imitation. Which delivery guy bought this for you? Giving gifts and still choosing knockoffs. Pathetic." I pulled my arm free from his grasp, a smirk playing on my lips as I gently caressed the bracelet. Seeing the serene smile on my face, Leo's eyes narrowed. In a sudden, rough movement, he snatched my wrist again and yanked the bracelet off. I was caught so off guard that he succeeded in one swift move. Chloe took the bracelet from his hand and dangled it in front of her. "It's certainly more exquisite than the counterfeit I bought," she mused, "but I'd never actually wear it out. People would laugh at me. The craftsmanship on fakes from abroad is really different, though. The feel is quite nice." She then looked at me, her eyes glinting with ridicule. "Or maybe, Clara, are you Helena, the legendary Mrs. Croft?" Her words were met with uproarious laughter. The idea was simply too absurd for them to comprehend. Julian Croft was a globally renowned financial genius, a ruthless and decisive force in the business world. And I, just 3 years ago, was the worthless girl whose marriage registration he had canceled, the one who had hung around their circle like a lost puppy. From their perspective, it was utterly impossible. Chloe began swinging the bracelet around her finger. "Clara, why don't you let me have this? I'll even pay you double for it." Fearing she would drop it, I said quickly, "Give me back my bracelet. It was a gift from Julian." Before I could finish my sentence, Leo slapped me. The force of the blow snapped my head to the side, and I tasted the metallic tang of blood in my mouth. "Shut up!" he snarled, his face contorted with anger. "Clara, you dare to speak Mr. Croft's esteemed name? You dare to spread rumors that you have a connection with him? Are you trying to get me killed?" His friends chimed in, their faces filled with righteous indignation. "Clara, do you have any idea how hard we worked to get this opportunity to pick up Mrs. Croft?" Mr. Croft's company acquired Leo's last year. We all depend on him for our livelihoods now. The only way for Leo to keep his position secure is to please Mrs. Croft. And here you are, spreading rumors. Are you trying to ruin him? I slowly wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth and turned my head to meet Leo's gaze. My stare must have been more terrifying than I realized because he frowned, a flicker of panic flashing in his eyes. Noticing his reaction, Chloe glared at me with pure venom and pointed a finger in my face. You ungrateful wretch! Leo has already agreed to take you in. Don't be so shameless. Even if you hold a grudge against him, you shouldn't try to get revenge this way. Her words felt like a direct transport back 3 years. No matter what I did, Chloe would always find a way to twist my words and actions, painting me as the villain to Leo. In the beginning, he would defend me, but eventually he started to believe her, always taking her side against me. Just like now. Jealous woman, he muttered, though this time he didn't continue scolding me as he would have in the past. After a moment of silence, he pulled out a check and held it out to me. For the sake of our past, I won't do anything to you. Take this money, buy yourself some decent clothes. If you don't want to take care of the kid, I'll find you a respectable job in a few days. Don't worry, he added with a dismissive wave. Since Croft acquired the company, this amount of money is a nothing to me. His condescending charity made my stomach turn. I pushed his hand away, retrieved my bracelet from Chloe's grasp, and offered him a tight smile. No need, Mr. Vance. I don't accept things from strangers. Ignoring Leo, whose face had turned a furious shade of red, I turned to walk away. I had barely taken a few steps before he grabbed my arm again, his face a cold mask. Clara, you won't even take my money? What is this supposed to mean? Am I a stranger to you now? Since we've already broken up, I replied, my voice even. It's better if we don't have any contact. I wouldn't want anyone to get the wrong idea. He seemed to misunderstand, glancing at Chloe with a knowing look. The company is hosting a banquet for Mr. Croft in 3 days. I was planning to take you to broaden your horizons, but you'll need to buy some decent clothes first so you don't embarrass me. Before he could finish, I politely cut him off. No need, thank you. Hearing my refusal once again, Leo's irritation grew palpable. The hand holding the check froze in midair, and I could hear the sound of his teeth grinding. Clara, you've really grown a backbone. It's true what they say, poverty breeds a temper. Since you don't want to go, forget it. I'll take Chloe instead. Hearing this, Chloe's eyes lit up. Leo, I promise I'll behave and won't embarrass you. I had no desire to argue with them any longer. I turned and walked away, tossing one last remark over my shoulder. I hope you're still this confident 3 days from now. As I finally left the arrivals hall and breathed in the fresh air, the nausea churning in my stomach began to subside. 3 years ago, my family had arranged for me to go abroad for a blind date. Desperate, I had defied their pressure and begged Leo, my boyfriend of 7 years, to marry me first. My plan was to present them with a done deal, a fact they couldn't argue with. He agreed. But to my shock, when I arrived at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I found not only Leo waiting for me, but his first love, Chloe, as well. Chloe's child needs household registration, he explained calmly. So, I need to marry her first. Once I get the divorce certificate a month later, I'll marry you. It's just for the child. Don't overthink it. Watching him take her hand and walk into that office, my heart didn't just break, it shattered into a million pieces. That night, I boarded a flight abroad. A month later, I married Julian Croft in a small ceremony. Within a year, we welcomed our first child, Noah. Now, I was pregnant with our second. If it weren't for accompanying Julian on this trip, I never would have returned to this city, and I certainly never would have run into Leo again. 3 days later, I applied a touch of light makeup and arrived at the banquet venue alone, dressed in another simple, casual outfit. The moment Leo saw me, his eyes lit up and a smug smile spread across his face. You said you wouldn't come, but your actions speak louder than words. If you're trying to win me back, you could at least try to make me happy. For an occasion like this, you have to dress appropriately to match my status. I ignored his sudden narcissism and tried to walk past him toward my seat. After only 2 steps, an annoyed Leo grabbed my arm. Clara, I'm talking to you. Did you hear me? Our seats are over here. Where do you think you're going? I shook his hand off and said calmly, That is your seat. My seat is over there. Following my gaze, Leo looked toward the head seat at the main table. His expression turned exceptionally unpleasant. Chloe, standing beside him, cast a venomous glare in my direction, pointed at my bracelet, and shouted, "Clara, how did you sneak in here? You're just here to cause trouble, aren't you? And you dare to wear that bracelet again?" Her loud voice instantly drew the attention of everyone nearby. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Isn't that the Eternal Sincerity bracelet? The one Mr. Croft bought for his wife?" "Mr. Croft is making his first public appearance with his wife tonight. Is this woman trying to provoke Mrs. Croft? She must have sneaked in. Mr. Vance, is this a friend of yours?" Leo noticed I hadn't even spared him a glance. He calmly adjusted his sleeves and said curtly, "No." Hearing his denial, Chloe perked up, her expression haughty. "Take off the bracelet and get out of here," she demanded. I looked at her, amused. "Are you sure you want me to leave?" Her face flushed with humiliation and her eyes turned fierce. "Stop pretending. Take that fake thing off now." As she spoke, she lunged toward me, reaching for my wrist. I pushed her hand away and stepped back to avoid her, but someone behind me stuck out a foot and tripped me. I fell hard, my head spinning. Before I could react, Chloe stepped on my outstretched hand and yanked the bracelet from my wrist. "Trash like this, and you treat it like a treasure," she sneered. My arm ached from her weight, and my wrist was a bloody mess. I could only stare in a daze at the broken pieces of my bracelet and the precious gems scattered across the polished floor. "Grab her and throw her out!" Chloe commanded with disdain. People immediately moved toward me. As hands were about to grab my limbs, I struggled, crying out in panic, "Stop! I'm Julian's, slap!" Before I could finish, Chloe struck me across the face. "Are you going to spread rumors about being Mr. Croft's mistress again? How dare you?" Not satisfied, she slapped me again. This time, returning home, I hadn't intended to argue with her about anything. It simply wasn't necessary. But now I knew I would make her pay for this. Leo crouched in front of me, reaching to touch the wound on my wrist. I instinctively pulled my hand away. He glared at me coldly. "Clara, haven't you caused enough trouble? You followed me here today, wearing that bracelet and dressed like this. Isn't it just because you can't stand to see me succeed and you want to make me jealous? Just beg me. If you beg me, I'll take you back." I let out a cold, humorless laugh. Looking him straight in the eye, I said, "Leo, you're finished." He frowned, about to speak, but suddenly the room grew unusually quiet. The guests throughout the venue began adjusting their appearances, their attention fixed on the entrance. Leo quickly pulled me to my feet and whispered, "Mr. Croft is here. Behave yourself, and don't worry, Chloe and I are already divorced." His words were so baffling they barely registered. Rubbing my nearly crushed hand, I could only think how detestable the man before me was. "What does your divorce have to do with me?" I asked. At that moment, Julian walked in, holding our son, Noah, in his arms. He was surrounded by his team, moving through the crowd like a king. Upon entering the hall, Noah insisted on being let down. The exquisitely dressed little boy, now on the ground, instantly became the center of attention. His nanny followed closely, ready to catch him if he stumbled. Leo suddenly turned back to me. "Clara, if you stop being jealous and provoking Chloe, I can forgive you for disappearing for 3 years. I'll even give you the chance to have a child with me, a child of our own." I ignored him, my eyes scanning the crowd, trying to catch Julian's and Noah's attention. Finally, Noah, leading the way, came to a stop directly in front of me. The usually expressionless little boy showed a hint of panic the moment he saw me. He rushed forward and threw his arms around my legs. "Mom, what's wrong? Who bullied you? Why is there so much blood on your hands?" With that one word, "Mom," every single person in the vicinity shifted their gaze from my son to me. The guests who had just been watching coldly as I was humiliated all stared, their eyes wide with disbelief. My son's hug was as warm as ever, and the gloomy mood that had enveloped me vanished instantly. I crouched down to his level and gently pinched his round little cheek. "Mom's okay," I said, my voice full of love. Noah tenderly took my hand and blew gently on the wound, his eyes looking slightly moist. "Mom, who did this to you?" Seeing him so upset broke my heart. As I was about to comfort him further, Julian began walking in our direction. He carried with him an overwhelming presence, an aura so powerful that the air around him seemed to compress, forcing people to automatically step aside. Though I couldn't see his face, the chilling sensation that ran down my spine told me everything I needed to know. Julian was furious. Ever since I became pregnant with our second child, the severe morning sickness had made him incredibly protective. He wanted to be by my side 24 hours a day. If it weren't for this urgent family matter, he never would have let someone else pick me up from the airport. If I had known I would run into Leo, I never would have been so willful and come back ahead of him. Feeling my husband's intense gaze on my back, I picked up my son and turned around. Against the white t-shirt Noah was wearing, the wounds on my wrist looked even more shocking. Julian's gaze was all it took. Noah, whom I was holding, immediately started fussing to be put down. "Dad, someone is bullying Mom. Let's get revenge for her." Julian stepped forward and gently took my wrist to examine it, his face darkening with every passing second. "Clara, what happened? The moment I'm not by your side, you get hurt. Who was it? Who was the blind fool that dared to touch you?" Looking at his worried, intense face, my heart warmed. He was always so overprotective. A mosquito bite, a mark on my hand from sleeping on it wrong, even eating half a spoonful less of rice than usual, it all sent him into a state of anxiety. But I loved that about him. I loved how much he cared. The banquet hall's lights were dimmed for ambiance, but the gems scattered on the floor still sparkled. Noah felt something rough under his shoe. He bent down and picked it up. It was the large sapphire from the center of my eternal heart bracelet. He held it up. "Dad, isn't this the gift you gave Mom?" Julian took the gemstone, and as he flipped it over, his eyes darkened upon seeing the initials JC engraved on the back. The scattered gems, the horrifying wound on my wrist, it was too much. Julian was so enraged that he gripped the armrest of a nearby chair and crushed it, the metal deforming in his hand. The lighting where I stood was dim, and he couldn't see my face clearly, which only irritated him more. He grabbed a stool, firmly sat me down on it, and commanded, "Turn on all the lights." The moment our eyes met under the full glare of the chandeliers, Julian's pupils contracted. He cupped my face in his hands. "What happened to your face? Who did this?" "I'm fine, Julian," I responded softly, patting his hand reassuringly. "Clara, I'm your husband," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "There is no reason for you to hold back when you have been wronged." Our son quickly chimed in. "Mom shouldn't be bullied." It hadn't seemed like a big deal at first, something I could have handled myself. But now, perhaps because of the pregnancy hormones, my voice trembled with unshed tears. The pent-up grievances from the past few days erupted. "You weren't here," I said, my voice thick with emotion, "and they all bullied me." The group of friends who had been at the airport were shaking so badly they had to lean on a table for support. The lovesick puppy they had been mocking for days, Clara, was actually Helena Croft, the wife of their ultimate boss. They were filled with an overwhelming, soul-crushing regret. They had offended someone they could not afford to offend. Suddenly, Chloe's best friend, Maya Shaw, stepped forward. She had arrived late and hadn't witnessed the earlier events. "Clara, where did you find these two actors? Their acting is superb. Maybe Chloe should help them find an agency. After all, you're so poor you can't even afford a decent set of clothes. I have an old dress I can give you if you don't mind." Maya only saw Chloe as a stepping stone to a wealthy husband, and she believed that bullying me was the best way to please her. She didn't recognize Julian or Noah. The people around her stared at her as if she were a fool, which made Maya feel a twinge of unease. She then pointed at Julian. "You, the guy over there? I think you're quite handsome. If you leave Clara, I might consider keeping you." I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing, trying to poach my husband right in front of me. I didn't know whether to admire her audacity or pity her foolishness. Julian was both angered and amused. He had spent years building a wall around himself to give me a sense of security. Any woman who tried to get close to him either vanished or was reportedly sent to a remote part of the world. Seeing the tense atmosphere, Maya moved closer to Chloe, who wanted nothing to do with her now. As Maya approached, Chloe slapped her hard across the face, sending her sprawling to the ground. Maya, how dare you offend Mr. and Mrs. Croft? It looks like you don't want to survive in this city anymore. Maya covered her stinging cheek, stunned. Lily is Helena, she muttered to herself in horror. The thought of what Julian, a notoriously protective husband, might do to her made her whole body tremble uncontrollably. Someone in the crowd gasped, and everyone's attention was drawn to Maya's lower half. She had wet herself from fear. Julian frowned slightly, and a bodyguard immediately understood, dragging the hysterical Maya away. Chloe and Leo flushed with anger. Although Maya had been dragged out, everyone knew her words had only echoed their own thoughts. The other guests were now staring at them with open disdain. Beside me, Julian had summoned a doctor who was now applying medicine to my wounds. Ouch, I whispered, and immediately the looks from my husband and son were murderous. Can't you even apply medicine properly? Julian growled at the doctor, whose hands were trembling with fear. I pretended to be angry and glared at both of them. Julian, Noah. The father and son immediately adopted pitiful expressions. I sighed. All right, the doctor's helping me. Stop it. Under my soothing tone, the doctor visibly relaxed. After completing the examination, he spoke to Julian. Mr. Croft, your wife is fine, and there are no issues with the baby. The injury on her hand is somewhat severe, but I will find the best medicine to minimize any scarring. Julian remained silent. I knew this was the calm before the storm. As the main culprit, Leo was visibly nervous. An inexplicable anger, a faint yet palpable sense of possessiveness, surged within him. But for the sake of his career, he couldn't lash out. Julian stood by my side, eyeing the guests with the air of a superior being. What happened here today and over the past few days, he said, his voice dangerously low. I expect you to come forward and explain yourselves. If I have to investigate it myself, the consequences for those involved will be severe. It was a blatant threat. Everyone present had come to curry favor with Julian. None of them would risk offending him for Leo's sake. Flustered, Leo was the first to speak. Mr. Croft, this is all a misunderstanding. As Clara's fiancé, I just wanted to catch up with her. His tone carried a hint of jealousy he wasn't even aware of. Bringing up the term fiancé at this moment was a foolish move. He still operated under the delusion that I should have remained chaste and waiting for him, ready to return whenever he beckoned. He completely failed to notice the look on Julian's face, but I clearly heard the sound of a glass cracking in his hand. Leo continued, oblivious. You should know how much Clara loved me back then. Isn't reminiscing normal? The glass in Julian's hand shattered, his palm covered in blood. Leo, stop flattering yourself, I scolded, turning to tend to Julian's hand. If you keep trying to drive a wedge between my husband and me, don't blame me for being rude. I only love Julian. Leo looked hurt. Clara, I know you resent me, but Chloe and I are divorced. Our child can call you Mom in the future. You only married him to spite me, didn't you? I don't mind. Divorce him and marry me. Whatever he can give you, I can work hard to provide. Just come back. Julian's blood smeared on my fingers, but when he saw how worried I was, he actually laughed. What's so funny? I asked, annoyed. He reached out with his uninjured hand and ruffled my hair. Clara, you just said I'm your favorite. My son, Noah, didn't indulge Leo. A nanny? My mom is a princess. You're not worthy. And that illegitimate child of yours will never be my mom's child. I've heard about you. How can a scumbag who broke my mom's heart compare to my dad? You're not as handsome, not as tall, and you don't have as good a figure, and you stink of poverty. The surrounding guests burst into supportive laughter. Ethan bit his lip, his chest heaving with shame. Ava, who had been standing silently, finally lost her composure. The thought of me replacing her as her child's mother drove her mad. She grabbed a nearby fork and rushed wildly toward my son. You little bastard! I'll kill you! An excruciating pain shot through my back and my face went pale. Before I could even ask Noah if he was okay, I collapsed, unconscious. In that last moment of awareness, just as Chloe rushed toward our son, I had let go of Julian and shielded Noah with my own body. The last thing I saw was the panicked look on my son's face. The sharp, sterile smell of hospital disinfectant stung my nose as I slowly opened my eyes. I was wearing a hospital gown, feeling dazed and disoriented. My best friend, Sophia Chen, was sitting by my bed. Overjoyed to see me awake, she rushed forward to hug me. Clara, you're finally awake. If you hadn't woken up soon, your two little troublemakers would have turned this whole city upside down. I instinctively touched my stomach and looked at her with a worried expression. She understood immediately. Don't worry, both you and the baby are fine. The doctor said you fainted from shock and the pain. That Chloe is truly vicious. How could she attack a child? Mentioning Noah made my heart leap into my throat. How are Noah and Julian? I asked, my voice hoarse. Sophia quickly handed me a glass of water. They're fine, she said, patting my back. Don't worry, that little rascal of yours is as sharp as they come. He didn't need your protection. After I'd caught my breath, I asked, why aren't they here? Sophia's eyes lit up. They went to get revenge for you, of course. I wanted to go too, but your husband and son are terrifying, so I stayed here to keep you company. She told me everything. After I was rushed to the hospital, Noah had taken a fork and stabbed it into Chloe's hand. Julian later found out about everything that had happened since my arrival, the slap, the destroyed bracelet, all the humiliation. He had his bodyguards hold Leo down and cut off the hand he had used to hit me. Then they beat him until his face was swollen like a pig's head. As for Chloe, Julian forced her to swallow a basket of gemstones. Since you love stealing other people's things so much, I'll satisfy you, he'd said. When she refused, he had her son brought in. After she swallowed the jewels, he had her face slashed and her son's tendons severed right in front of her before she was dumped in international waters. The guests who had stood by and watched were each given a hideous scar on their wrist as a punishment for their indifference. Leo had only escaped the same fate because Chloe, in a final act, had held off the bodyguards long enough for him to run. Just then, the hospital room door was flung open and two figures, one large and one small, rushed to my bedside. Noah shoved his godmother aside. Mom, you're finally awake. Are you feeling okay? Don't worry, I took care of everyone who bullied you. Julian's eyes were rimmed with red. Though I had only been unconscious for a day, they looked as if they hadn't seen me in decades. I'm fine, Julian. Don't worry, I reassured him. Then I looked at my son. Noah, did Dad scold you? The boy's little mouth pouted as tears welled in his eyes. No, Dad didn't scold me, he insisted, but I knew Julian's personality too well. I held my son in my arms to comfort him, then glared at my husband, who stood frozen, looking guilty. Mom, I promise I'll never let you get hurt again, Noah whispered into my shoulder. This was all my fault. I'm so sorry. My heart melted. It was a mother's instinct to protect her child. I didn't blame him at all. Later, after Sophia and Noah left, Julian stubbornly insisted on examining my wound himself. After a team of doctors had confirmed for the 10th time that I was perfectly healthy, they finally agreed to let me go home. While I was packing my things, the door to my room swung open again. My back was turned, so I assumed it was Noah. Noah, can you get Mom's comb for me? Clara, it's me. My hands paused. I turned around and saw Leo. His face was still badly swollen. He must have found a way to avoid Julian's security. What do you want? I asked, wary. Clara, don't be afraid, he said quickly. I won't hurt you. I still love you. The thought of you married and having children with another man is unbearable. You still have me in your heart, don't you? We can start over. He was wearing the suit I had bought for him years ago, one he used to call ugly and cheap. He tried to take my hand, but I recoiled in disgust. Start over. Leo, when you threw me out of the Civil Affairs Bureau and made me a laughingstock, did you ever imagine this day? Now you say you love me? Don't you find that disgusting? Chloe was carrying my child, he explained hurriedly. I couldn't just walk away. You wouldn't want a child to grow up without a father, would you? I let out a cold laugh. You have no shame. You're still making excuses for your mistakes. How pathetic. Why would I ever look back at trash like you? Before he could respond, bodyguards burst into the room and subdued him. Julian stood in the doorway, his expression dark. You really have a death wish, don't you? As the guards dragged Leo away, he shouted, Julian, do you really think she loves you? You're just my substitute. Julian knocked him unconscious with a single blow. He knew about my past with Leo. After all these years of marriage, Julian still lacked a fundamental sense of security. He always felt that I didn't love him enough. Watching him walk away down the hall without a word, my heart ached. That evening, back at home, I found myself staring at the large wedding photo on our living room wall. In the picture, Julian's eyes were full of adoration, while my expression was somewhat indifferent. Our marriage had started as one of convenience, but over the years, I had developed genuine, deep feelings for this man. I took the photo down from the wall and discovered his secret. The entire space behind the large frame was filled with photos of me, candid shots taken over many years. There were photos of me from before I even knew him, pictures of me handing out flyers during a part-time job in college, even one from my high school graduation. Julian came home to find me sitting on the sofa, surrounded by the secrets he had hidden. He walked over, looking fearful. "Clara, how did you—" He looked like a child who had been caught doing something wrong, unable to meet my eyes. I felt the urge to tease him. "If you like me so much, why didn't you pursue me earlier? We missed out on so much time. It made me meet a scumbag like Leo." I picked up one of the photos. "These are really well taken, though. I like them a lot." Julian was stunned. "You're not mad at me?" "Mad at you for what?" I asked, genuinely confused. He thought I would find his hidden collection of photos perverse, but all I saw in them was an overflowing, unconditional love. The usually stoic, powerful man actually had tears in his eyes. "Clara," he whispered, "I don't dare hope for your love. I just want you to stay by my side." "You're talking nonsense again," I said softly, pulling him down to sit beside me. "You're the one I like the most. My heart and my eyes are full of you." I never understood Julian's low self-esteem, as he was clearly such an outstanding person. I had once hired a private investigator to look into his past and learned he had been abandoned by his biological parents before being adopted. His adoptive father, a good man but not a warm one, was always cold and distant. Julian grew up feeling unloved. In school, his quiet nature led to isolation. In high school, I often saw him eating plain rice alone in the cafeteria. Thinking his family was poor, I once stuffed a wad of cash into his backpack. "From now on, you're my little brother," I'd said. "This is your payment." I never even knew his name back then. My gesture was born out of simple pity, but I never imagined that quiet boy was Julian. Because of those experiences, even though he loved me fiercely, he always maintained an inexplicable distance, a fear that he was unworthy. Even now, with 2 children between us, that insecurity remained. I realized then that I would spend the rest of my life showing this wonderful, sensitive man just how much I truly loved him.